Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video today we're going to talk about a different lake out west. Lake Mead, Lake Powell are getting a lot of press. I've done some videos about them, about how they're drying up, and but a lot of bodies of water out west are having trouble with the drought out here. And if you search about the Great Salt Lake drying up. There's a lot of search results here. A lot of people have been covering it lately, and mainly that's because an environmental nuclear bomb, and they say that that bomb is poisonous dust clouds, which is because of arsenic that will, that's on the lake bed that will go into clouds and then go over the entire Salt Lake area, which the population of Salt Lake is booming these days, like a lot of places out west. So right here, here's a satellite view of the Great Salt Lake in September 1987, and this is the Great Salt Lake in 2021, and it has shrunk by 2/3. So that's a huge, that's 1/3 of it is left. I mean, this whole arm off to the right here is gone, and now just you can see the outline of where all of this water used to be, and now this is the outline of the whole where it's all just dried up, and this is what's left here. But it can affect migratory birds because they they depend on it to stop on their annual migration, not just for a rest, but to feed on the tiny creatures in the lakes. It can affect the ski conditions in the resorts above Salt Lake City, which out there in the Wasatch, there's a number of ski areas. But it says right here that most alarming, the air surrounding Salt Lake City would occasionally turn poisonous. The lake bed contains high levels of arsenic, and as more of it becomes exposed, more of the lake bed becomes exposed, wind storms carry that arsenic into the lungs of nearby residents who make up 3/4 of Utah's population. So yeah, that's that's pretty true. So um, Joel Ferry, a Republican state lawmaker and rancher, says we have this potential environmental nuclear bomb that's going to go off if we don't take some pretty serious, dramatic action. So they say there's no easy solutions. Saving the Great Lake would require letting more snow melt from the mountains flow into the lake, which means less water for residents and farmers. That would threaten the region's breakneck population growth and high value agriculture, something state leaders seem reluctant to do. Yeah, nobody ever wants to, or nobody ever will, do what's needed, do the hard action, face the seriousness of it. Like America's at, well, we'll just go into more debt. We'll just keep putting it off. And they don't, because it's unpopular to actually face it and solve it. It's just, oh, well, people get mad. Well, you know what? They're going to get mad when the bottom falls out too. Well, that's further down the road, and maybe I won't be in office then. But that they equate this to California's Owens Lake, which went dry decades ago and produced some very bad levels of dust pollution in the United States, and it turned the nearby town into a ghost town, basically. And it happens, when lakes vanish, and they really support the population in a lot of ways, from home water use to agricultural, um, irrigation. They just just to even recreation. Lakes when they dry up, the population moves on a lot, and right now Salt Lake is one of the fastest growing urban areas in America, home to 2.5 million people. That's wow, they really are growing down there. So, and now with the lake drying up, they're worried about how it's going to affect that big city. It's actually kind of I think that's the whole greater area of Salt Lake, all the surrounding towns of 2.5 million, because Salt Lake really has a very small downtown to say. And, there's only a few tall buildings in it, but it is vast that it's spread out. But, right here, Right here it says, if you don't have water, you don't have industry, you don't have agriculture, you don't have life. And so, Salt Lake used to cover 3,300 square miles in the 1980s, and it has shrunk to less than 1,000. So that's the lake's surface area. So that's less than a third is left. That's yeah, they say it's terrifying. While the ecosystem hasn't collapsed yet, we're at the precipice, and it's terrifying. And they say that the soil at the bottom of the lake, it contains arsenic, ATIMONY, antimony, copper, zirconium, and other dangerous heavy metals, much of it residue from mining activity in the region. Most of the soil is protected by a hard crust, but as wind erodes the crust over time, those contaminants become airborne. And then the clouds of dust make it difficult for people to breathe, particularly those with asthma or respiratory ailments. Yeah, that's this is a disaster. And so if you look up arsenic, here's the World Health Organization. We all love them. They're our friends, right? Arsenic is naturally present at high levels in groundwaters in a number of countries. It's highly toxic in its organic form. It Long-term exposure to arsenic from drinking water and food can cause cancer and skin lesions. It has been associated with cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And in utero and early childhood exposure has been linked to negative impacts on cognitive development and increased death in young adults. So, yeah, arsenic is not good for you. The health effects, the first symptoms to long-term exposure, for example, through drinking water, are usually observed in the skin, including pigmentation changes, skin lesions, hard patches on the palms and soles of feet. These occur after minimum exposure of approximately 5 years and may be a precursor to cancer. Other adverse health effects may be associated with long-term ingestion of inorganic arsenic, include developmental effects, diabetes, pulmonary disease, cardiovascular disease. Here's another. This is from the CDC. Again, it says that it's a naturally occurring element, which it is. It's really in a lot of places, but it says that unusually large doses of inorganic arsenic can range from nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea to dehydration and shock. So long-term exposure to high levels of inorganic arsenic in drinking water is associated with certain medical conditions. These conditions include skin disorders, increased risk for diabetes, high blood pressure, and several types of cancer. Inorganic arsenic and arsenic compounds are considered to be cancer-causing chemicals. And if you go to cancer.org, it says, does arsenic cause cancer? They said, they don't determine what causes cancer. They just deal with cancer, but they depend on other agencies who do. And the International Agency for Research on Cancer, well, part of the World Health Organization, our friends, it says it classifies arsenic and inorganic arsenic compounds as carcinogenic to humans. It is based on sufficient evidence in humans that these compounds can cause lung cancer, bladder cancer, skin cancer. It can also cause kidney cancer, liver cancer, prostate cancer. So arsenic isn't pretty. Arsenic and Old Lace, that was a movie. Other health effects of arsenic, both short and long-term exposure to arsenic can cause other health problems. Breathing in high levels of arsenic can cause sore throat, irritated lungs. Swallowing high levels of arsenic can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle weakness and cramping, skin rashes, and other problems. Exposure to high amounts of arsenic can be fatal. So exposure to lower levels of arsenic over longer periods of time can cause skin changes, liver and kidney damage, and a shortage of red and white blood cells, which can lead to fatigue and increased risk of infections. So right now, all of the drought out west now puts the 2.5, 2.6 million people that live in the the Great Salt Lake Basin as, potential victims of poisonous dust clouds, and those poisonous dust clouds will contain arsenic as the Great Lake dries up. And then the wind picks up the arsenic that was, in the lake bed and distributes by air. Everything gets distributed by air, by water, whether, and this was from mining a long time ago, it says, whether, it doesn't matter. Just like the video I did about fish the other day, testing positive for drugs. It all intermingles all over Earth, There was headlines the other day that down in Antarctica, they just got the first bit of microplastics showing up in fresh snow. That's because of global air currents, taking the microplastics from elsewhere. They certainly weren't produced in Antarctica, but they're brought everywhere. And so right now, the whole Salt Lake area is looking at a problem of having toxic air. So just another of the consequences of the drought that's happening in the West. So yeah, look, that the lake is really, really, really drying up, and there's more consequences to it than just that, but this is making headlines, and this is just what this little video is about. I try to keep them short, but remember that if you're even driving through the area. Okay, people, stay tuned.